Hey, and we're back. I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from the office. We're North Georgia's only live online morning show. You're watching FYNTV.com. We're bringing you some great information here. We had a great report at 8:30 this morning from the ground in Pennsylvania that we're talking about George Soros voting machines in Northampton County. We're going to switch now. We're staying with the Trump campaign. I now have Jennifer Hazelton on with me. She is the communication director for the Donald Trump campaign in Georgia. Jennifer, are you able to hear me this morning?
I can hear you. How are you?
I'm doing great. You had a busy day yesterday, so we gave you a pass. You were supposed to be on, but after I heard what you were doing yesterday, you got a big pass here on the show, and we're glad to have you today.
I can hear you. How
and we
are
were
you?
willing to be patient so we can hear why were Ivanka and Tiffany in Georgia, and what was yesterday's event all about?
Well, so it made a lot of sense with their schedule, as many of your viewers probably saw yesterday. They had both been in New York yesterday. I'm sorry, not New York, Washington D.C. yesterday morning or it was around noontime, I guess, for the opening of the Trump International Hotel in the old U.S. Post Inspectors Building in Washington. And so they were there with their dad and other members of the family, and they were then on their way to Florida. And obviously, Atlanta is a direct stop on the way, so they wanted to stop in Atlanta and meet with volunteers on the campaign who've been working so hard to get their dad elected, making phone calls and knocking on doors. And then, Ivanka is very much a proponent of working women and issues concerning working women, being a working mother herself. And so she was interested in meeting with some Atlanta women and hearing sort of what their challenges are as they balance working and family. A proponent of working women and issues
Let me ask you a question now. I'm not really actually seeing very much of that reported in several media groups.
Atlanta women,
Why do you think
in
some
hearing
people
sort of
haven't
what their
picked that
challenges
up
are
if
as
they
they
were even here?
balance
Because
working and family.
if it's up there right now, I don't know, but I usually go, to things like the AJC, Political Insiders, and things like that. And I see talk about the Senate race. I really didn't see too much on this. Why do you think the media, or do you think they covered it and I'm missing it? Maybe I'm missing it.
You mean covering Tiffany and Ivanka's visit?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, they got a ton of coverage. They were in the AJC, they were in the Marietta Daily Journal, even some papers in London picked it up. They were on every TV station in Atlanta. WSB Radio covered it, NPR covered it, the AP covered it. So they were all over the place.
I didn't see it. I didn't see it around on the internet as much as I normally do this morning.
Even some papers in
I
London
guess
picked it up.
I
They were
missed
on
that.
every TV station in
Internal
Atlanta.
polling in
WSB
Georgia. How does
Radio
the
covered
campaign
it,
feel?
NPR covered it, the
Some
AP
people are still
covered
trying to
it.
say it's neck and neck. I for one, am, I don't think Georgia's in place. So how's the internal polling feel and look in Georgia to you?
So Brian, just FYI, all of a sudden your audio is becoming really garbled on my end of the line. So I think I couldn't really understand what you were saying, but I think you were asking me maybe about polling. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so for us here in Georgia, things as far as what we can tell, things are looking really good for the Trump campaign in Georgia. We had 3 polls come out within the last week. 2 of them had us up by 4. The AJC poll had us up by 2. So we've been consistently ahead in Georgia since the summer against Secretary Clinton. And, as the polls in Georgia tend to underestimate Republican votes in our state. So, we feel really good about where we are and the fact that we're going to carry Georgia in November.
Okay, well, I hope you're able to hear this next question. And I asked you this yesterday, and I did tell our viewers this, but I just want to hear it again, and I know they would like to hear it directly from you. We feel really good about where we are and the fact that we're going to carry Georgia in November. We knew who we were running against. I will say that. I'll leave that to me. I knew who we were running against from day one. But what I want to know from you is, are you 100% committed to this campaign? Is Kellyanne Conway 100% committed to this campaign? Because the media is starting to try to draw some separations and say this person or that person is not as committed, or they're trying to read between the lines. So in the campaign, Is everybody enthusiastic and solidly behind this candidate?
I'll be honest, I don't know where that's coming from. I haven't seen any signs of that at all. I mean, everybody is full steam ahead. And, I'm on calls every day, multiple times a day with our headquarters in New York, with the people who work there and are running
I'll be honest, I don't know where that's coming
the
from.
overall campaign from New York, from Trump headquarters, along with my colleagues here in Georgia. Obviously we had Ivanka and Tiffany here yesterday, so we were working with the people who travel with them. And everybody's fully 100% committed. I don't know where that's coming from. I haven't seen any signs of that, and I haven't read about that.
Colleagues here in Georgia.
Oh, well, I have to tell you, I will tell you I've heard it 3 times, and the one place I heard it, this goes back 2 days ago.
I don't know where that's coming from. I haven't.
Oh, well, there you go. Consider your source.
I'm just saying, because I know they are, and I know what they're going to do in the next 10 to 12 days or whatever's left, is they're going to try to float out there that this person is wavering, or they've heard this or that. I just wanted you I knew the answer. I just wanted you to say, hey, we're 100% full steam ahead. I see the enthusiasm, but let me ask you a question. The campaign, what about this article this morning, Clinton Inc.? I mean, I don't know. I don't even have words for it, Jennifer. I don't even have words.
I really think we are at the point with our opponent's candidacy where the country has completely jumped the shark. I mean, I don't know what more we need as Americans to see that this is not what we want for our country. I mean, let's think about it in these terms. Let's put policy aside for a second. I mean, we could go on and on about policy, but let's put that aside for the second. Does the country want to put into office somebody where there is direct, hard evidence of pay for play, collusion, machine politics, scandal, going around federal rules and regulations? Do we want to bring somebody new into the White House who is going to continue to be investigated by Congress and will continue to have federal lawsuits hanging over her head? I mean, I don't know. I am old enough to remember the Clinton administration. And I remember that seemed like, I was a teenager for a part, for most of it. And all I remember is one scandal after another, and I think we can clearly determine that that's what we're going to get if we go in that direction. And I don't think that with all of the issues that our country has, with figuring out how to reduce our debt and maybe ideally one day get rid of our debt, reforming our tax code, securing our borders, rebuilding our military, all of the things that we have before us, we have some really mighty challenges ahead of us as a country. I don't know that we want to put all of those challenges in the hands of somebody who is going to, A, be continuously distracted because she's constantly being investigated, and B, that we can't trust to get the job done. I mean, who's she going to be operating for? Is she going to be working for us, the American people? Is she going to be working for the King of Morocco, who gave her $12 million? Is she going to be operating for the banks who paid her $250,000 a pop for speeches, plus who knows what kind of donations they gave to the foundation? Are there other foreign governments? I mean, Brian, you will remember this probably, but I mean, again, I was like maybe 14 or 15, I think. But remember when there were all those allegations and it kind of connected Al Gore to China and fundraising in China? And all of that had sort of been happening around the time then President Clinton was making a decision on whether to give China most favored nations trading status. We can kind of look through the prism of today and look back and go, well, what was really happening back there? And we all know, aside from whatever might have happened or didn't happen, surrounding that decision, we can, through the prism of today, maybe we need to ask some questions about why some of those decisions about NAFTA and about giving China most favored nations trading status in the 90s were actually made. Was there other influences at play? Because we know that our manufacturing sector was decimated based on those two decisions.
Jennifer, going off that, obviously, I do not feel Hillary Clinton will be elected. And let me switch gears just a little bit. I had a conversation with a first-time voter. The young lady's 20 years old yesterday. I had a conversation with this lady. I went to a polling booth. She came out. She was willing to talk to me. She's 20 years old. So we are hearing Donald Trump's problem with women. So I'll go down that. And we all have heard and seen the interaction between Newt Gingrich and Megyn Kelly the other night. And the media is, in my opinion, is obsessed. I mean, I wish they would take on the Clinton Inc. and everything you just said, I wish they would work on. But I'm getting where I'm at here. So I talked to this one young lady, 20 years old. She says, first-time voter, what she liked about Trump, first of all, Hillary scared her. And what she liked about Trump was Trump is brutally honest. That's what I got, brutally honest. So I'm on the phone with a lady in Pennsylvania, in way north Pennsylvania, close to the New York line yesterday. I made a random phone call up there, doing my own polling. Lady shared with me, she's about 55 years old. She shared with me, Trump is brutally honest. What do you feel, and I want to bring that directly to you as a woman, what do you feel, how is he doing with women? And is it the media that is saying, hey, he's got a problem with women? I'm not seeing it, but then again, I'm not qualified to say whether there is or not. Can you talk to that for me?
Well, I mean, I don't see any signs that we're having. I mean, all the women that I have been in contact with around the state, repeatedly say, we're not falling for this. If this is about the issues for us, they can't just assume that we're a monolith, and because we're women, we're going to automatically vote this way or that. So I've seen a ton of enthusiasm. I mean, we had a roundtable full of women very enthusiastic about meeting Ivanka and Tiffany Trump. We had a Cobb County GOP headquarters that we packed to the gills. I mean, this thing with them coming, it was a very last minute thing. It came together at the last minute. And we still, with Ivanka and Tiffany, they're not on the ballot. They're private citizens. They are living their own lives. And we had a absolutely packed Cobb County GOP headquarters. And there were, maybe I don't know how much that room can fill. And I'm not great with estimating crowd sizes, but I would say it was 200 to 300 people until the fire marshal cut it off. And then there were another 100 or so people outside who couldn't get in. And, to the point where Ivanka and Tiffany said, we want to go out and talk to them. They come all the way out here. So they walked around the building after they were done with their rally. They literally walked around the building to the front. And most of the people yesterday were women. Most of them. I mean, there were a good cross-section of men as well. But we had, I would say the majority of the people who turned out are women. So I can't tell you what the media is seeing or not seeing. I can't comment. I do know that, I think your viewers would recognize that we have an uphill climb regarding the media in general.
Absolutely.
But I'm not seeing any lack of enthusiasm among women in Georgia anyway.
Let me stay on that one more as far as women in Georgia or in general. Let me stay on that one more because I got another question, because this is what is that I'm wondering. Educated women, you're an educated woman. Do you not feel educated women are offended that they are actually being talked down to, that they're not smart enough to read these articles and understand what corruption is? I mean, I don't even know where I'm going there, but do you understand what I'm saying? It's like, to me, it's every time they say, well, educated women, Donald Trump's polling really bad. So to me, I'm just like, okay, so educated women don't know how to read these articles and understand what corruption are. Are you just calling? I don't know where I'm going, but you understand what I'm kindly saying?
I don't know that it's disgusted as much as I think we're dismissive of it. Look, the big things that we need to be worried about, and I think this goes for educated people, no matter who they are, whether they're men or women, or I think educated people recognize the scope and scale of the challenges facing our country. We understand that our debt is at unprecedented levels. We understand that there are millions of Americans who can't get good jobs. we understand that under the Obama administration, we have had the worst recovery in American history. And we have a rate of GDP growth, which is at 1% or less, that's not even keeping pace with inflation. And that even the businesses that, have managed to survive in this economy can't expand and thrive the way they want to because of the shackles that have been placed on them by the government. Women know this. Women know that having a porous border with Mexico is not in our best interest. Women know that having a weak military and allowing unvetted immigrants coming into our country is not in our best interest. And, at the end of the day, now is the time for Republicans to come home. Now is the time Republicans need to get serious and tell themselves, ask themselves, like, what do you want for your Supreme Court? What do you want to see happen to the national debt? What do you want to see happen to your military? What do you want to see happen to our borders? And when you start, I think all Republicans, no matter if they're women or men, are going to take these things into account, and they're all going to come home for Trump. Because
Republicans come home. I do know Mike Pence is out saying Republicans come home. Mike Pence is headed back to several other states. My sister told me he's coming back to Pennsylvania. And I just heard that at 8:30, Republicans come home. That is the talking point right now, and don't take that wrong. It is the talking point. Do you feel Republicans will come home in these next 2 weeks, the ones that are out there? Do you think you're going to be able to appeal to them to come in with their vote?
Yes, because I think, look, here's the deal, Brian. We had a heavily competed, tough primary season. We had 17 candidates. Everybody had their choice. Everybody had their horse in the race that they liked. And it's hard. I think it's hard. You identify with the candidate, you decide he or she is your choice, you decide you're going to give him or her your vote in the primaries, and people become attached. And we naturally had to winnow that list down to one. And when you start with 17 and you winnow down to one, there are going to be lots of Republicans out there whose first choice got winnowed down. But the bottom line is that Donald Trump got more votes in our primary season than any other Republican in history in a field of 17 people. He won Georgia overwhelmingly. And I think that while there probably was some disappointment with some of those who were backing one of the other 16 candidates, we're now at get real time. The Supreme Court's at stake. Look at what's happening with Obamacare. Just here in Georgia, our premiums are expected to rise an average of 33% next year. I mean, you cannot sustain this program. And I think that when all of the Republicans start doing the math and looking at the options and realizing what's at stake, the importance of the next 4 years in charting the trajectory of our country, are we going to resume a free enterprise model that embraces entrepreneurship and growth? Or are we going to sit in this pool of stagnation and even backtrack even worse than we already are for another 4 to 8 years? And I think that Republicans know we can't afford to do that.
Well, with all the polling numbers, we have to close this up, but with all the polling numbers out there, and they're all over the place, and I'm watching them, the two things that I think that have the Clinton campaign as nervous as possibly can is the number one concern still is the economy for the American people. That's still the top question. That in their concerns, economy still goes to the top. And I do feel Donald Trump wins that vote. Number two is 66 to 68% of Americans think the country's headed in the wrong direction. I think Donald Trump gets that vote. And last but not least, independents are breaking for Donald Trump. And a campaign, you have been involved in politics for quite some time, not as long as I have. You made a reference earlier that I may remember something a little longer than you, but you and I both know that all campaigns look for that who's breaking as independents in those last 2 weeks. And the breaking independents is a good thing. So Trump has breaking independents in the polls that are on his side. The economy is still a number one issue, and 66% of Americans think we're going the wrong way. How that must make your campaign feel good.
It does, but also, what is Hillary Clinton offering? She's offering
me. I'm sorry, you asked me a question. I wanted to answer that. I truly don't know. I watch her rallies.
If we even just look there, she's not offering us anything. I think that if you just go on that alone, she's basically trying to double down on the last 8 years of failed policies. It does not appear that she has a vision for our country. I think Mr. Trump clearly does. And he's had a very clear vision since June of 2015 when he first announced his candidacy. And, that alone, that's leadership. Leaders have visions. They chart a course and they rally people around the vision. And I think, that's what leaders do. And so I really do, at the end of the day, I think the choice is clear for Republicans and honestly for the rest of the country, that we've got to make a change. And this is a pivotal opportunity. And I think we'll all look back in maybe 10 years' time and realize the importance of the decision that lays ahead of us, in less than 2 weeks right now.
Well, Jennifer, if you can get something back to the campaign, I want to share this with you. I did it at 8 o'clock, and I know you're busy with a lot of interviews. I want to close with this. I am often told, well, you're not in Buckhead, and you're not in Marietta, and you're not in Atlanta. You're in North Georgia, where they vote 72, 76% Republican. I went yesterday afternoon, Jennifer, to a rural county election office, and I sat for an hour. Just observe, sit in a chair for an hour. The lady that runs it, I know her. And I watched. They're averaging 400 to 450 a day. The lady has run this election office for 30 years and told me never since she had been there, never has she seen this. It's going to set all records.
Wow.
They've never seen nothing
like it.
And
this is Gilmer? Okay. Gilmer County?
No, this was actually Fannin. I went up to Fannin. Okay. But the point is no, we're not in Buckhead. And we're not in Atlanta. But I think this is going to be a rural America election. And I think it's going to be amazing. And people are going to be shocked. Jennifer, the lady said in 30 years she'd never seen
Well, we need our voters in the heartland. We need them all to turn out. It's so important. Your voters up there in North Georgia, you guys are so important to us. And we just want to thank you first and foremost for everything that you're doing for us. We greatly appreciate it. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And also, as Brian, you just pointed out, early voting is going on now, and we need you. We need your support. So please turn out. Please vote Trump. Please help us get things back on track.
Get to all those other interviews you have lined up today and the hard work you're doing, and we appreciate you taking the time out to be on our show here. And we thank you very much, and I'll be in touch, Jennifer, and we'll schedule something else to continue this conversation.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, we've been talking to the Georgia Communication Director for the Donald Trump campaign. That's the Georgia Communication Director for the Donald Trump campaign, Jennifer Hazelton. When I get her on the line, if we can get her off there, Cole. Yeah, okay. When I get her on the line, I like to talk to her about how women feel. I don't even know how to say it anymore because I don't even know how to say it. But I like to talk to her because I want to know. I think it's insulting women to say they don't support Donald Trump because he said nasty things, which I know you don't like and I don't like, but we're going to say that women can't read these articles of corruption and know what would end up in the White House. All right, I'm your host, BKP, North Georgia's only live online morning show, FYNTV.com, all the above. Now, we're going to 11 o'clock. We're going to 11 o'clock every day up to election because we're going to get into some local elections. We're getting into national elections and state. Why do we need to amend the Constitution? I had that conversation. Why does Georgia need to amend the Constitution? And somebody said to me, the only time you amend the Constitution is when you can't get the person said, corrupt things you want to do done in legislation, so you amend the Constitution to fit in with what you want to do. Because guess what? If what you want to do is okay, it's unconstitutional. but if you amend it, it won't be unconstitutional. So is that a small way to say some of the things on the ballot of Georgia that today are unconstitutional and we need to amend it? Should we amend these things in Georgia? We have 4 amendments on your ballot in the state of Georgia. When we get back, we talked to State Senator Josh McCoon yesterday from Columbus. McCoon, he's a Georgia State Senator, Muskogee County, I think it is, down there in Columbus. Anyhow, he gave us his endorsements and how he felt about the amendments. When we come back, Jolene's going to come in here and respectfully give us another side of how she sees those. So if you're wondering how to vote on those amendments, schools, JQC, I call it the stripper pole tax. Okay, I'm serious. We'll be back after these messages, folks, and we got a lot more to come. FYNTV.com. Take us a break, Cole.